Much of Donald's 2024 presidential campaign was based on the economy. He blamed President Joe Biden for out of control inflation and high prices, without, of course, taking any responsibility for those things himself, because obviously high prices and high inflation were a direct result of Donald's egregious and malicious mishandling of COVID and the continuing supply chain issues. But why let facts get in the way of a good story, right? So Donald promised the American people that he and he alone could fix the economy and everything would be better the second he stepped into the Oval Office. Of course, the reality we're living with under the Trump regime is the exact opposite of that. Thanks in large part to the unprovoked unilateral trade war Donald started months ago and the imposition of his insane tariffs, prices are on the rise again, inflation is creeping up. The tariffs are also having impacts on major retailers, leaving them no choice but to raise their prices and passing those on to American consumers. Companies like Pepsi, Home Depot, Monster Energy, and Sony have recently announced their plans to raise prices, and consumers, not foreign countries, will be bearing that burden. Why? Because tariffs are taxes on products Americans buy. It is that simple. Things are even worse for small business owners in America. The people that the Trump regime and the Republican Party are supposed to care about, those guys, including farmers. A recent New York Times article chronicles business after business either closing or on the verge of closing, all because of Donald's tariffs. In an already uncertain economy, businesses are facing huge new taxes and fees thanks to the tariffs. Because, of course, other countries are retaliating. One example that was mentioned was that of Vietnam War vet Richard May. May owns a company, MFG Direct USA, which has been in operation for the better part of 35 years, and his company sells garage doors. To bring his garage doors into America from China, Mays now has to pay an 83% tax to the United States government, which is a compilation of 4 different existing and new tariffs. Because of this, May has described going into survival mode, laying off staff and cutting expenses. He now worries that his business won't make it through the next few months. Yes, I guess that is a version of putting America first. I didn't realize that putting America first meant putting Americans last, because that's what's happening here. It is becoming impossible to be a small business owner in America and continue to employ people and continue to make a profit that allows you to live the life you were accustomed to living before these tariffs. Everybody is having to cut corners and everybody is paying a price. It isn't just businesses, though, that are suffering under Donald. Everyday American consumers are as well. Working class Americans are already feeling the effects of tariffs, and that is only going to get worse when new tariffs already in effect are actually felt in the next month or two. Donald's terrible economy is contributing massively to higher prices. Everything from groceries to household bills to electric bills is going up. CBS Evening News has more.
Like, do you pay your rent or you buy food?
Everyday staples saw significant cost increases in the last year. Coffee up nearly 15%, ground beef up just over 11%. Egg prices hit by avian flu are falling, but still up more than 16%.
$7 for 3 ears of corn that just seemed twice as much as I've ever seen corn for anywhere.
My budget has become double for food shopping.
It wasn't supposed to happen.
A vote for Trump means your groceries will be cheaper. Food prices rise quickly as a result of upstream costs, and that could be any number of things: commodity prices, energy, labor, regulation, but they come down slowly, if at all.
He says tariffs on aluminum and steel implemented in March are impacting the price of groceries now. They're showing up in higher costs for canned foods and beverages, but in less obvious ways too.
Steel is absolutely essential to food manufacturing, processing, storing, and transportation.
All right, we know that Donald has promised many, many times that prices would be lower and the economy would soar once he was president. Obviously, none of that's happening. And we just need to take a second to acknowledge how many people believed him, despite the fact that he is the most notorious liar in world history. How do we know that people are finally starting to wake up? Well, because just as in that video, people understand when prices go up. People understand when their paychecks aren't able to cover the basic necessities that they're used to covering. And while all of this is going on, while prices are going up across the board and inflation is increasing, they are hearing Donald continue to tell the lie that everything's great, that in fact, don't believe your own lying eyes. Prices are down. Eggs are cheaper than they ever have been. The American economy is in a golden age, don't you know? People understand that none of that could possibly be true, because if it were, they would have money left over to pay for other things. We also see, as I mentioned, that it is not just groceries. It is electricity. Car prices are going through the roof, especially because of those aforementioned tariffs on steel and other car parts. Studies have found that Donald's anti-renewable energy policies will raise prices, which is, again, the opposite of what he promised, but also what happens when the person randomly imposing tariffs he doesn't understand starts to pretend that he gets what is supposed to happen to make energy prices cheaper. He's entirely beholden to the oil and gas industries. So, of course, he's going to put in place policies that make it more and more difficult for Americans to get cheaper, cleaner, safer forms of energy. A July report from the climate think tank Energy Innovation found that the Republican spending mega bill that Donald signed last month could increase wholesale electricity prices by as much as 74%, largely due to the fact that it repeals many Biden-era green energy incentives. Climate Power senior advisor Jesse Lee put it very plainly, quote, Republicans are fueling an energy crisis and inflicting a massive utility bill hike on Americans across the country. This is nothing short of a betrayal of their own voters. Families are losing jobs while their bills climb, all because Republicans would rather protect their donors than lower cost. Yes, indeed. This is what happens when you make politics about money. And when you're getting reelected means being beholden to large corporations. While prices rise, our workforce is worsening under the Trump regime. The economy is showing warning signs when it comes to labor. Many labor issues are being exacerbated by Donald's harmful policies. Missouri, using one state as an example, is seeing a major uptick in women dropping out of the workforce, which is a problem. As it turns out, this is part of a larger national trend. 212,000 women over the age of 20 have left the workforce since January. The cause, apparently, is a combination of a decrease in workplace flexibility and an increasing need for caretakers. This year, Donald has urged the end of work from home, something that he implemented across agencies in the federal government, with many employers following his lead and demanding a return to office. It is difficult to overstate what a blow that is to families when suddenly they go from having to be in the office 2 days a week to having to be in the office full time. Families take a massive hit economically when such a change is made, and it is especially infuriating when the change is made for no reason whatsoever. But the disappearance of flexibility is not the only reason women are leaving the workforce in 2025. Times reports that lower income women are struggling because federal dollars for childcare have declined significantly this year. Such funding helped many centers stay open and allowed them to charge lower tuition than they otherwise would have. Additionally, 63 million Americans, that's nearly 1 in 4 adults, now provide ongoing care for an adult or child with a complex medical condition or disability. Another 1 in 3 caregivers is part of the sandwich generation, caring for both children and aging relatives. But as Donald continues to gut resources for people with disabilities and people receiving Medicaid, things will only get worse for these families. And in a time in which prices are increasing, many households cannot afford to live off of one income. So here's the great irony. The so-called savior of the American economy is creating a vicious cycle that American families cannot escape. And many of them, quite frankly, in this moment, are not sure if they're going to be able to survive it. Please take a second and like and share this video. It'd be awesome if you could subscribe to the channel. If you're listening to us in podcast form, please follow us and give the show a 5-star rating because it really does help other people find our content. Thanks.